Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from the Breeders Cup at Mare Racetrack here on Saturday. It is the 2nd of November 2024. We're going to look at all of Saturday's Breeders Cup races, but before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and join me this upcoming Monday evening here stateside for my Melbourne Cup preview from Flemington. Great Breeders' Cup races today from Del Mar. Some very wide open races. We're going to look at races 4 through 12, so we have a lot of action to get to right now, so let's get into it right now. Starting off with the 4th race, the first Breeders' Cup Saturday race. It is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. It's a Grade 1 event going for a purse of $1 million. Race for fillies, mares, 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have a field of 10 horses entered. Keep in mind, the 5-horse Pandora's Gift is scratched. We'll be down to a field of 9 horses going the distance of ground of 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the Del Mar main track. I'm going to go with the number 10 horse here, Skyla, as a top selection. 10-9-4-6 for me in the superfecta. 10-9-4-6 super. Top selection 10 horse Skyla. 4-year-old filly by Tabit here. Beaumont trains. Mike Smith gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently here in New York up at Saratoga. 7 furlongs in the Grade 1 Ballerina handicap, and she finished second by 3.5 lengths behind Society, who really romped that day and really took off clear on the front end. This horse, she had to gain a little bit ground that day. She sat back early. She moved a little bit late. The winner had the jump on her, but, first start back from California, she might need the race that day, maybe still a little bit of a tired horse. She ran her heart out. I like her cutting back here today. She has more time between races. She's proven she could ship out to Southern California and run competitive races. I'm going to give her a shot to find the winner's circle today. 2 back in the Clement L. Hirsch here at Del Mar, mile 16, 3rd of August. She finished second by 2.5 lengths behind Adair Manor that day, and she was with them on the front end setting the pace. Just kind of yielded late. Maybe she didn't want to go the 2 turns, but she ran her heart out that day. And the Florida Liz prior to that at Churchill of the mile and 8th, she won by a neck that day. She gained a lot of ground from the back of the pack. She quickened up nicely, and she got there in nick of time. A very good run. She's won around 2 turns, but I just think coming here to a 1-turn race is something she's going to do better with. She won Derby weekend at Churchill with a 1-turn mile and an optional 80. Won by 7 lengths. She did get some serious class lead from her previous races, but she flew home clear, winning by that half a dozen. Training nicely over this track. She's proven she could run, competitive races on the other side of the coast. I'm going to give this horse shot on the ticket. I think the 9-horse Ways and Means for Flavia and Chad can win also. She's been pretty perfect since definitely cutting back and trip. Her cutback and trip started on the 6th of June at Saratoga over the Wilson Mile, and an allowance race for $110,000. Her first time facing all the horses, winning by 8.25 lengths. She didn't get out of the gate so clearly, and she was a little bit wide, but she flew home clear late. 20 cents a dollar, 104 buyer. That was one of the most impressive runs at Saratoga Belmont Stakes weekend. Came back to run in mid-August or early August, Saratoga with the 7 in the test. Went by 2.25 lengths on the front end. She flew home clear late, and then again sold her horses in the Gallant Bloom on the slop at Aqueduct, going 6.5 on the 28th of September. Winning by 4 lengths. She didn't have the, she didn't face the toughest horses that day, but again, she really took home clear late. Since breaking her main by a baker's dozen last summer at Saratoga, she's really become a better horse, a great horse, especially since cutting back and trip. She was on the Oaks Trail, and she ran in the Oaks where she just never was really getting into it. She just kind of yielded late. And in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, she just wasn't staying the 2 turns, but cutting back and trip to a 7 furlongs, drawn well here today, training well here in New York. She could definitely win. Let's use her on the ticket. To recap my selections for the 4th from Del Mar, it's the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. We're going to take 10-horse Skyla as a top selection. Give kudos to the 9-horse Ways and Means. We're going to go 10-9-4-6 super, 10-9 in the multi-race. Heading to the 5th race now. The 5th race from Del Mar, it's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. It's a Grade 1 event going for $1 million purse. Race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have an overflow field of 15 horses entered, but only 12 could go to the Jimmy Durante Turf Course at the distance of ground of 1,000 meters or 5 furlongs on the Jimmy Durante Turf Course. The portable rails are down, so just keep that in mind. They won't have it up during, during the big meeting of the year. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 6 horse here, Star of Mystery. 6-8-5-9 for me in the superfecta. 6-8-5-9 super. Top selection, 6-horse Star of Mystery. This 3-year-old filly by Kodiak here. Charlie Appleby trains one. William Buick gets on this one for Godolphin. They ran the horse most recently in the Franklin County Stakes at Keeneland. 5.5 furlongs on the 13th of October. First start in about 3 months. She finished second by 3/4 in length that day, and she sat back early. She didn't have a lot of forwardly pace that day, but she saw a good pace to close up into. She quickened up nicely. She just missed late behind Futures now, who had the jump on this one. But this horse, she ran her heart out. Coming here second off the bench, getting a very good poster. Should see a good trip in front of her to should see some strong fractions up front to really get her a good turn of foot from the back of the pack and get the job done. She had that turn of foot against the boys in the quick call at Saratoga. 5.5 on the Melon, 14th of July. She won by 1.5 lengths and a 65 cents to the dollar. She came from mid-pack. She quickened up nicely. And she got the job done. A very good, strong performance. And then the Giant Pour against older horses at Saratoga, going 5.5 on the 8th of June. She finished third by 3 3/4 lengths. Mana needed the race that day. She was a little bit wide. And Cogburn, who was the next start winner, was running back this one. Azarek, who's running back this one, ran terrifically. And the next start after that, Star Mystery, who was running back this one. She's had a great season since then. That was a very good race. And this horse, she ran terrifically there in her North America debut. And then if you look at her races in the Middle East at Maidan, she came off to win the Blue Point Stakes against older horses at Maidan in January quite nicely by 1 3/4 lengths. Came back to win a massive place in the Natal Shiva Turf Sprint and the Alqua Sprint. She finished second by 3/4 lengths. If she would have broke on top, she would have won the race, but she ran her heart out. For a 3-year-old filly to do that early in the season at Maidan against those very tough older horses, I thought that was quite impressive. She's training well, coming here today. I think she could win. I think the 8-horse Big Invasion for Frankie and Christoph can win also. They gave this horse a confidence builder to 3 back at Aqueduct on the 4th of July. 6 furlongs in the outer and obsolete claimer. Stepping down for the first time a little bit time. He finished second by a neck, and he ran his heart out. He sat back early. He had a great turn of foot late. He just missed Outlaw Kid, but he got that confidence builder. Came back to run the Harvey Pack at Saratoga closing weekend over the 5.5 on the Melon, where he won by a half a length, by a head that day, coming from the back of the pack. Not the best beginnings, but he grinded home clear late. That was a good run. And then they ran him down the hillside turf course in the Eddie D Stakes at Santa Anita. They wanted to get a race under his belt. They took him to Saratoga. Off the quick turnaround for $750,000, and he ran a decent fourth, but it's a very weird course. They are going down the hillside turf course. I think coming back to a more standard 5 furlongs where he'll see a very good pace to close up into, I think he can get the job done. He ran terrifically in this one last year at Santa Anita, where he nearly caught no balls that day from the inside, but if he had a better trip from the inside, he probably would have won. But I like the seasons that he's had since that confidence builder at Aqueduct in July. Wouldn't surprise me if he wins. The 5-horse AJ Bullet for Umberto Rispoli and Richard Baltus. They tried the horse routing last time out in the First Lady at Keelan over the mile, where he finished 4th by 5 1/4 lengths, where he just kind of yielded late. Won the Ladies Turf Sprint at Kentucky Downs over the 6.5 quite nicely in the front end. I won the Oceanitas routing on this track back in July quite nicely also. I think cutting back and trip, she has a lot of forwardly pace, but I don't think she's fast enough to keep up with these flying 5 furlong horses. I think where she's drawn, she can find that turn of foot to get a good mid-pack position and get a good turn of foot late. At 10-1, let's use her in the ticket here. But to recap my selection for the 5th from Del Mar, it's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We're going to go take the 6-horse Star Mystery, give kudos to the 8-horse Big Invasion and the 5-horse AJ Bullet, 6-8-5-9 Super, 6-8 in the multi-race to the Distaff. The 6th race from Del Mar, it is the Breeders' Cup Distaff. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $2 million purse race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here of 10 horses entered originally. The 8-horse Miss New York is scratched. We'll be down to a field of 9 horses now going the 1,800-meter journey, or mile and 1/8 on the main track here in the Distaff. I love the 2-horse Torpedo Anna. I'm going to go 2-6-9-1 in the superfecta. 2-6-9-1 super. Top selection 2-horse Torpedo Anna. This 3-year-old filly by Fast Anna. Kenneth McPeak trains. Brian Hernandez Jr. gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently at Parks in the Grade 1 Cotillion, a mile 16th, cutting back and trip back to her own division. She won by a neck that day, and she basically stalked all the way around the race course. She quickened up nicely, and she got the job done. A very easy 10 cents a dollar race. Coming here to older horse for the first time, I think she's run races fast enough to keep up with them. She's going to be very forwardly paced from where she's drawn. Speed favoring course, I think she could get the job done here today and end off the season well. She ran terrifically in the Travers at Saratoga over the mile quarter, facing males on the 24th of August. She finished second by a head. She stalked that day. She was nearly coming to fierceness late. She just missed, but she ran her heart out. She ran just as good as fierceness. Nothing bad about that race that day. Probably one of the most exciting races of 2024 there. Like I said, nothing bad about that run. not bad odds either. 7-2 for her at post, so you got some good money for place there. And then the coaching club at Saratoga over the mile 8th in July. She won by 4 1/4 lengths. She basically stalked that day. She quickened up nicely, and she got the job done. A very good performance. Before that, winning the Acorn in hand from a stupidly wide poster, losing a shoe, and then the Kentucky Oaks winning at 5.5 to 1 or 5 to 1 that day. Another very good run. Since her coming out party in the Fantasy at Oaklawn in March, she's really improved a lot. She's training well. 4 to 5. I know it's a crap price, but if you're going to play the pick 4 that begins with this race, a couple multi-race wagers that begin with this race and connect some of these races, I would single her there. That this is your logical single. So to recap my selection for the 6th from Del Mar, it's the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Distaff. We're going to take the 2-horse Torpedo Anna. We're going to go 2, 6, 9, 1 in the Super. We're going to single this 2 Torpedo Anna in the multi-race. Let's get to the turf, the 7th race. The 7th race from Del Mar, it's the Breeders' Cup Turf. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $5 million purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have a baker's dozen heading to the starting gate. 13 horses going the distance of ground to 2,400 meters or a 1.5 miles on the Jimmy Durante turf course. I love the 2-horse Emily Upjohn as a top selection. We're going to go 2, 3, 11, 6 in the superfecta. 2, 3, 11, 6 super. Top selection of 2-horse Emily Upjohn. This 5-year-old mare by See the Stars here. John Gosden trains. Frankie Dettori connects and reconnects with his former boss here to get the mount, and with his former lady here. Most recent outing for this horse came in Paris at Longchamp, a 1.5 miles on soft ground in the Group 1 Prix Vermeil, and she finished 3rd by 1/4 lengths that day, and she just kind of stalked that day. Blue Stocking had the jump on this horse late and really had a terrific race after that. We don't have to go more into it, but this horse, she ran her hard out behind her that day on probably ground she wasn't appreciative to. I think she wants fast ground. She's going to come to it today, and I think she could find the trip to win, but she got beat by a decent mare that day. She ran 2 back in the Group 1 Yorkshire Oaks at York, 1.5 miles on the 22nd of August, and she finished 3rd by 1 3/4 lengths. Content really took off clear. Again, this horse just kind of stalked. She just kind of yielded before the wire, but again, she got around the race course well. And the Group 1 Nassau Stakes, a good one over the 1.25 mile. She finished 6th by 8 1/4 lengths, and that's the favorite that day. She was wide, and she just never had anything. I think coming here to a 1.5 miles is her preferred trip. Getting Frankie up, if you look over the races this horse has run with Frankie up, that's when this horse really connects well. Frankie was on her most recent victors. She won last year's Coronation Cup against the boys at Epsom quite easily over the 1.5 miles on fast ground. Won by 1 3/4 lengths, closing up from nowhere. A little drifting late because she was in front by a lot, but she really came home clear there. And then won the British Champions Filly Mare Stakes at Ascot in the fall of 22, winning by 3 lengths on horrible ground. Again, she flew home clear late, and then she had a very good place on Tuesday in the Oaks at Epsom in 22. But getting Frankie back up here today, again, being overly paced. It's a very good post draw. The North America, long distance turf division, not the best in the last 5 years. This horse could come over and steal it. Also, if you look at some of the mares she's been facing in Europe the last couple months, those are a lot tougher horses than she's facing today. I think she could get a piece of it to find the trip to win. I have the 3-horse Charar. Pardon me if I'm mispronouncing the horse's name wrong. The 6-year-old horse by Deep Impact, Faradaki Fujawa, and Christian Demira can win also. He ran most recently in the Group 2 Sapporo Kinin at Sapporo over the 1.25 miles in August, where he finished 5th by 4 lengths that day, and he just never got into it. I do think the trip was too short. He does his better running style over the 1.5 miles. He's going to come back here to a 1.5 miles today on very lightning fast ground, drawn very well. I think he could find a trip to win. He ran the Shahima Classic before that at Maidan over the 1.5 miles in March, where he finished 2nd by 2 lengths that day. He was with him early on. Rebels Romance just had the jump on him late. His running back this one today was next out winner, but this horse, he got around the race course well. Not a bad race in the feed. And then Rima Kanen at Nakayama over the mile line, 16th in December. He finished 5th by 1 3/4 lengths that day. And again, he just kind of yielded before the wire. Maybe after a very tough fall campaign, got to him. He ran this race last year at Santa Anita, where he finished 3rd by 1 1/4 lengths. Really, closing up well that day. If he had a better trip in the lane, he could have made the race interesting, but I don't think anybody was really catching August Rodin that day. But he made a good shot behind him there. He's actually a place horse in the Japan Cup in 22, where he ran a massive place. If he just had that better trip and just could keep the forwardly pace late, he probably would have won that day. Coming here today at 10-1, it wouldn't surprise me if he finds the ticket. And even the 11 horse here, Rebels Romance for William Buick and Charlie Appy. This horse is a trotter. If you look at all the countries he's made, or he's started this year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back here, number 6, the country of the year for him. He won in Germany and Cologne in the Group 1 Prix Van Europe, winning by a neck from mid-pack. I thought that was a very good race. The race in the UK at Ascot in the King George, he just never was really comfortable that day. But one in Shatin, one in Maidan, one in Doha. At the end of the last season, one at Kempton. He could definitely win. He's proven that he can win this race. He won it 2 seasons ago. I do think 2 seasons ago the race was a little bit lesser quality horse than it is today, but he is a better horse since then. At 5-2, it wouldn't surprise me. I would use him on the ticket, but I do think Emily Upjohn and Shahar are more likely winners, but I'll use him in the pick for some padding here. But to recap my selection for the 7th now from Del Mar, it's the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf. We're going to take the 2-horse Emily Upjohn, give kudos to the 3-horse Shahar, and the 11-horse Rebels Romance, 2, 3, 11, 6 Super, 2, 3, 11 in the multi-race. Let's get to the featured 8th race from Del Mar. The 8th race from Del Mar, it is the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $7 million purse race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have a field of 15 horses entered. Only 14 could go the distance of ground of 2,000 meters or a mile and a quarter on the Del Mar main dirt course. I love the 3-horse Forever Young as a top selection. We're going to go 1-3-9-8 in the superfecta. 1-3-9-8 super. Top selection to 1-horse Forever Young. This 3-year-old colt by Real Steel here. Yoshito Yogali trains this one. Gets Reska Sakai up on the saddle, and pardon me if I'm mispronouncing all their names wrong. Japanese is just not my first language here, pardon that. But this horse ran most recently in Tokyo on the 2nd of October. Mile and a quarter in the Japan Dirt Classic, winning by 1/4 lengths, basically on cruise control from a tracking trip. First start back from the Derby, he flew home clear late. I thought that was a very good race. Since coming here stateside, he's training well on this track at Del Mar. He gets a very good poster. He's proven that he can run competitive races at a mile and a quarter. I think he could find a trip to win. He's also proved he could run here. He could ship here to the States and run competitive races, which I like. He ran 2 back in the Kentucky Derby at Churchill, mile and a quarter, 4th of May, and he ran terrifically that day. He finished 3rd by head. He sat back early from a good mid-pack post draw. Not the best beginnings early on, but after that, he slowly got his way into the race. He quickened up nicely. Sierra Leone was down his throat in the lane, but he, in that all-out finish, he, just a slightly better trip. He probably would have won that day, but not a bad race in the feet that day. And then the UAE Derby at Maidan over the mile 3/16, winning by 2 lengths that day. He had a bit of a wide trip, but he stalked, he got the lead, and then he flew home clear late. A very good run from there, back from Saudi over the 1-turn mile at King Abdulaziz, winning by head that day, again from mid-pack. He saw a good pace to close up into, and he went away with it. He's really an improving type. Back here, older horses are coming to older horses today. I think he could find a trip to win. The biggest wise guy in this race, and the biggest wise guy of this Breeders' Cup, will be, can City of Troy connect on dirt, and can he handle the dirt? Because if he can handle the dirt, he's going to win this race by a mile and a half. This 3-year-old colt by Justify for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, he's been pretty perfect this year, other than the English guineas. Over the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket over the mile in May, he just ran horribly. Finished 9th by 16 3/4 lengths. He just was on the drive, just not excelling. Off the bench, he probably need the race, but his Derby performance after that over the mile and a half at Epsom was quite impressive. Winning by 2 3/4 lengths. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly, but he settled well going down the backstretch. He got the lead in the top of the lane, and then he flew home. If they went around another 5 times, he probably still would have won that easily. That was a very good performance for this horse there. And then prior to that, first-time holders in the Coral Eclipse, winning by length that day, 25 cents a dollar. Again, he won on cruise control. And then in the Juddmonte International over the mile and a quarter, winning by length that day, again on cruise control. He's done everything right. He should be bred for, he's bred for dirt, so he should stay for, he's bred for it. But will he handle the kickback? He's training well over it, but you don't know until he runs on the track. They're trying to see if he can run like Saki or Galileo did in 2001. So the damn sire here is Galileo. So watch out for him. 5-2. I would give him a shot here. He's a very beautifully bred horse. It's going to be his final start ever, but let's see if he can win. I'll take my chance with him. I think the 9-horse Fierceness could get a trip to win also. The three called by City of Light. Top Pletcher trains John Velasquez gets the mount. He nearly got caught by the incredible Torpedo Anna and the Travers last time out over the mile quarter, but he won by head that day. He stalked, he got the lead in the top lane. He had to abuse the line, grinded out to the wire, but he had his head in front, winning by with a 111 bar. The Old Fierceness came out that day. The Old Fierceness came back in the Jim Dandy also with a mile 8th at Saratoga, winning by a length that day from a track and trip. He flew home clear, and then he just ran those clunker in the Derby where he just didn't have a good trip, and he just didn't get out of the gate so clearly, and he just yielded in the top lane. It wasn't his day to win, but he had everything his own way in the Florida Derby at Gulfstream, winning by a baker's dozen, 110 buyer. Best buyer going to the Derby. That was a good run. He's running very competitive buyers that can win this race by a mile, but he's going to have to find a clear trip. He did have some not the best trips last time out in the Travers, but he still flew home clear late, so maybe he's growing since then. At 3-1, I'll give him a shot on the ticket. If you want to get a little wacky, here the 8-horse Priorness for Cherie DeVille and Brian Hernandez Jr. I love the Pimlico Special with Victor for this horse with a 97 buyer in May, where he won by 3/4 length. Came back there, I thought, to run a decent place in the Stephen Foster at Churchill, and then his Jockey Club wasn't bad at all either. I think coming here between races, he's bred for the 1.25 through and through. He looks like a grinding kind of horse. I'll give him a shot here on the ticket at 30-1 to possibly upset it. A horse you definitely want to use on your tries and supers here. Another wise guy horse just looking over it right now is going to be the 14 horse next. Another horse, it wouldn't surprise me if he steals it on the front end, but he is getting his biggest challenge here today. But if you look at his buyer numbers, he's competitive with them, but he's going up in major class. If he wins, it'd be cool for him, but he's, like I said, he's the wise guy horse. I'm not going to use him, but if I get beat by him, I get beat by him. But I do think it's going to be a very exciting classic this year. To recap my selection for the 8th now from Del Mar, it is the Breeders' Cup Classic. We're going to take the 1-horse Forever Young. We'll give kudos to the 3-horse City of the Troy, the 9-horse Fierceness, and the 8-horse Priorness. 1-3-9-8 Super, 1-3-9-8 in the multi-race. Let's get to the Filly Mare Turf, the 9th race now from Old Del Mar. The late pick 4 begins with this 9th race from Del Mar. It is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $2 million purse race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here of, let's see if we get the page to the right page here. Field of 13 horses, or Baker's dozen, going to the turf course of the 2,200 meter journey, or mile 3/8 on the Jimmy Durante turf course. I love the 4-horse Warlike Goddess. I'm always a big fan of her here. I'm going to go 4-10-3-9 in the superfecta. 4-10-3-9 super. Top selection of 4-horse Warlike Goddess. This 7-year-old mare by English Channel. Belmont trains. Junior Alvarado picks up the mount on this one. She loves the longer trips, and she's had a pretty good season so far this year. She, most recently in the Turf Classic, Joe Hirsch Turf Classic at Aqueduct, a mile and a half on the 28th of September. She finished second by 3/4 length where she stalked. She had the lead. Farbridge just caught her late, but she ran her heart out. She grinded out to the, in the race, trying to get her 3rd victor in the race. She just missed late, but again, not a bad race in the feet. Coming here facing the mares, coming to this turf course where she's drawn well today. I think she could find a trip to win. She placed in this race quite a few seasons ago, so on this turf course, so watch out for her. She ran 2 back in the Flower Bowl Invitational at Saratoga, mile 3/8 on yielding ground, finishing second by 1/4 lengths that day. She was a little bit wide. She moved a lot late. She just missed on the demanding ground, but again, I've seen worse race from her. And then prior to that, in the Robert Dick Memorial Delaware over the mile 3/8, winning by a length, coming from mid-pack. A little bit wide, but she got the job done. She's basically facing nobodies that day, but it was still a good run. She needed a race to start off the season. She was supposed to run in the Bewitch in April at Keeneland. They scratched out of her. They needed a race. Ran her in the New York Stakes at Saratoga for the mile 3/16 in the Melon, which was, the wrong decision, I think, because she's just not the mile 3/16 horse. She likes a mile and a half, which would be better for her today. She's getting a little bit less than that, but she ran okay in the New York Stakes, but she still needs something more. She ran last year's Breeders' Cup Turf, where she just never really got going from a wide trip, but she won last year's Turf Classic on a bog at Aqueduct, and placed in last year's horse, Glen Falls, behind McCulloch, who again just had the jump on this one. But she's an incredible horse. She's run competitive buyers here that could definitely win, training nicely. At 5-2, be cool for her to finally get a Breeders' Cup victor. Like I said, she's always been a consistent horse at these longer trips here stateside. I think the 10 horse Moria could win also for Flavian and Kevin Attard. Most recently the EP Taylor Stakes Woodbine over the 1.25 miles. She finished second by 3.25 of a length that day, where she just couldn't catch the winner who's running back this one today, Full Count Felicia, but she closed it from nowhere that day. I thought that was a good performance. Prior to that Colonial mile 3/16 in the Beverly D, she won by a head, and she had a dream tracking trip. She quickened up nicely and she got the job done. And then the Diana off the bench, she finished second by 3/4 length behind White Beam, where again she just closed up well, just a little bit too late. She ran this one last year where she had a massive third at 13.5 to 1. She's gonna have to overcome a wide trip here today, but I think she has the ability to get the job done. She's gonna be flying late, and I think the wide poster actually will be to her a little bit to her benefit here. So I'm gonna use her here. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a 2-horse race between Warlike Goddess and Moria here. So in the late pick 4, we're gonna go too deep. Opposed to the counterpoint of the male race, the Breeders' Cup Turf, the filly mare turf can play towards, it has been more successful for the American-based fillies of mares than the European filly mares. So just keep that in mind here. But to recap my selection for the 9th now from Del Mar, it's the Breeders' Cup filly mare turf. We're going to go take the 4-horse Warlike Goddess, give kudos to the 10-horse Moria, 410 3-9 Super, 410 in the multi-race to the sprint. The 10th race from Del Mar, it is the Breeders' Cup Sprint. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $2 million purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have a field of 11 horses going 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs in the sprint. I'm going to go take as a top selection the 8-horse Straight No Chaser. We're going to go 8-10-9-3 in the superfecta, 8-10-9-3 super, top selection 8-horse Straight No Chaser. This 5-year-old horse by Spicer here. Dan Blacker trains, John Velasquez gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in the Grade 2 Santinian Sprint Championship at Santinito, 6 furlongs on the 29th of September, and the horse went by 6.25 lengths that day, and he had that Southern California speed, like we call it here stateside, where he was on the front end flying, quickened up nicely, and he kept going. Wasn't the world's deepest race in quality, but he's still a very good run with a 104 buyer, not the best of his career, but it was still competitive in this race. I think he could find a trip to win in his own backyard. He ran 2 back in here in New York in Aqueduct, 6 furlongs in the Run Happy Stakes. He needed a race off the bench. He found it there in New York. He finished 4th by 3 lengths. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly. Got quarter horse to get good position, which he did. He just kind of yielded before the wire. Joey Freshwater just caught him, but he ran his heart out that day, with it being his first start in nearly a year. Nearly a year prior to that, the Maryland Sprint at Pimlico over the 6, winning by 7.25 lengths on the front end. He flew home clear with a career best 107 buyer, and then at Oaklawn in April 23, an optional 50 over the 3/4, winning by 7.25 lengths that day. Again, he just kept going. He has a lot of speed here. He's training well in his own backyard. I think he could find a trip to win. I think the 10-horse Mulligan for Rudolph Brissett and Flavian could find a trip to win also. He won the Forgo going 7/8 at Saratoga quite impressively, won by 5.75 lengths, flying to the 3/4 of 109 flat. He just kept going. That was a good run. Prior to the John Nehru at Aqueduct over the 7, winning by 1.25 lengths again on the front end. He really came home clear with a 120-2 for the final 7/8, 108-1 to 3/4. They were flying on that track at Aqueduct. He won an optional 80 at Churchill before that in June, and won a allowance race against older horses at Keeneland to start off the season. Since coming to his 4-year-old campaign, he's really started improving a lot. He's training well. He has a little bit of a wide trip, but I think he could find a trip to win. If there's a horse that could win from the clouds here, I think it could be the 9-horse Remake for Kawada here, this Japanese invader. He most recently ran in the Korea Sprint at Seoul in South Korea over the 6 furlongs on that very deep sandy track. He won by 2 lengths, and he got there from a mid-pack position. He had to be used a lot. At 20 cents to the dollar, he got the job done, especially with it being his first start off the bench. He ran the Shaheen Classic before that at Golden Shaheen at Maidan prior to that over the 6, where he finished 4th by 1/4 lengths that day. And he just wasn't, just a tired horse back from Saudi Arabia that day. He just never really got going. And then the Riyadh Dirt Sprint at King Abdulaziz over the 6, winning by 1/4 lengths, closing it from mid-pack. I thought that was a very good run. He's going to be, coming from a little bit of the clouds here today. It could be a tough thing to do at Del Mar, but if there's going to be a pace meltdown at 8-1, it wouldn't surprise me if he wins. I'll use him on the late pick 4 here. But to recount my selection for the 10th now from Del Mar, it's Breeders' Cup Sprint. We're going to go take the 8-horse Straight No Chaser, give kudos to the 10-horse Mulligan and the 9-horse Remake, 8-10-9-3 Super, 10-9 in the multi-race to the 11th race now. A very exciting race. The 11th race from Del Mar. It is the Breeders Cup Mile. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $2 million purse race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. A dozen horses are going to the turf course, the 1,600-meter journey, or a mile on the Jimmy Durante turf course. As I get older, I think my favorite Breeders' Cup race now is probably the Breeders' Cup Mile. It's always exciting. You know, the horses that are on the front end, usually, you know, setting the pace to the first half mile, usually don't keep up. It's always those horses flying from the clouds or mid-pack that wins this race, and it's always, you know, the margin of victory in the race is always by a little. You know, I think in the last, like, I saw a stat in the last 15 years, I think the largest margin of victory is like a length, which is nothing, it seems, and it's always like a half length. It's something, you know, it's always an exciting race here, so buckle up. It's going to be, you need to have some luck on your side, especially on this very narrow turf course at Del Mar. My top selection here in the mile, I'm going to go with the 8-horse More Than Looks. I'm going to go 8-4-6-1 in the superfecta. 8-4-6-1 Super. Top selection 8-horse More Than Looks. This furrow colt by More Than Ready. Cherie DeVoe trains. Jose Ortiz picks up the mount. They ran the horse most recently in the Keeneland Turf Mile, or Coolmore Turf Mile at Keeneland, a mile on the 5th of October, where he finished second by a length behind Carl Spackler, who's drawn in the parking lot in the Pacific Ocean, it seems, today. But this horse, he sat back early after not the best beginnings. He was stupidly wide. He just missed late behind his nemesis, Carl Spackler, but he ran his heart out. I think drawn very well here today. Should find it. We'll have to have some luck here, but I think you could find a trip from where he's drawn to get there first today and get the job done. He's going to see a good pace to really close up into. He saw a good pace last time out of Keeneland, but he saw a horrible pace 2 back at Saratoga. A mile off the bench in the 4-star Dave. They went 1:13 and 2 3/4. They're not going to do that today, but he finished second by 3.5 lengths behind Carl Spackler, who sat a little bit closer to the pace and got the job done. This horse had to come from the clouds that day. He just missed late and it was a little bit rank off the bench. But for him doing that off the bench, I thought it was a decent effort there. And then last year's Breeders' Cup Mile, he finished 6th by 2 lengths, drawn in the parking lot that day, but he closed up from nowhere. He just missed length. He just missed late. Again, not a bad race in defeat. And then the Jefferson Cup at Churchill over the mile against 3-year-olds last September, he won by 2 1/4 lengths, coming again from mid-pack. He flew home clear. You know, since you know, he's been, you know, a little bit of a late developing horse, but you know, he's definitely on the improve with every single race. He's run 3 triple-digit buyers. You know, when he sees pace to close up into, he always finds a trip to get there and to nearly win. 20-1. I think he could find that trip to win. I'm going to use him on the ticket. I think the 4-horse here, Diego Vasquez for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. I think this is their one of their best chances for the weekend behind City of Troy. He ran most recently in the Solano Stakes at Leopardstown over the mile in September, winning by 1.5 lengths, closing up from mid-pack. I thought that was a very good race. Finally, you know, cutting back in some trip. He ran against nobodies in the Group 3 Meld Stakes at Leopardstown over the mile on 8th in July. I thought that was a key for him cutting back. He won by 7 lengths that day, and from a track and trip, he won easily there. And the King Edward, he just completely crumbled over the 1.5 miles. He just wasn't handling it. Also, quicker turnaround from the previous race at Chantilly. You know, he just saw a tired horse that day. The Prix du Jockey Club, the French Derby, was his previous race at Chantilly, where he finished 8th by 4 3/4 lengths, where he just yielded before the wire. I don't think he wants to go 1.5 miles, 1/4. He wants to go the mile. He's bred for it through and through. He's drawn well here today. He has some forwardly kick. I think at 8-1 he could find a trip to win. And I also think the 6-horse Notable Speech could find a trip to win also for William Buick and Charlie Appleby. This horse was your Guineas winner at 16-1 at Newmarket in the spring, winning by 1.5 lengths from a mid-pack trip. He really came home clear. Came back to run the St. James Palace after that as the 1-2 favorite, where he just had nothing from the back of the pack, but came back to win the Sussex quite nicely. And then he just kind of had a troubled trip on soft ground at Longchamp in the Prix de Moline de Longchamp. But he's the kind of horse, he goes up a lot with fast ground. He's going to see it today. He's going to have a pace to close up into. At 7-2, wouldn't surprise me. We'll definitely use him in the pick 4 here. But to recount my selection for the penultimate race on this Breeders' Cup program, the 11th race from Del Mar, it's Breeders' Cup Mile. I'm going to go take the 8-horse More Than Looks. Give kudos to the 4-horse Diego Velazquez and the 6-horse Notable Speech. 8-4-6-1 Super, 8-4-6 in the multi-race. Let's get to the nightcap now from Del Mar. The nightcap from Del Mar, the 12th race. It is the Breeders Cup Dirt Mile. It's a grade 1 event going for $1 million purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. A full starting gate of 14 horses are going to post the distance of ground of 1,600 meters or 1 lap around the dirt course, which is a mile in circumference here. Like I was saying earlier, as I get older, the turf mile has always been one of my favorite races. You know, as I grow into adulthood, as I get older, this dirt mile is probably one of my least favorite races because it takes away from the sprint and it takes away from the classic. You know, it's just, you know, I know why they have it, but still, I just rather, you know, they get rid of this race and have the horses that have to run in the sprint, and the horses that want to go to the classic, they go to the classic. But you know, it will never happen. But you know, it's just not my favorite race. With that being said, I love the one horse Saturday Crown as a top selection. We're going to go 1-9, 11-6 in the superfecta. 1-9, 11-6 super. Top selection, 1 horse Saudi Crown. Vertical by Always Dreaming. Brad Cox trains. Florent Giroux gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently in the Cowboy Jones Stakes at Ellis over the mile on the 11th of August. Winning by 1 3/4 lengths on the front end. Off the bench, he flew on the front end, 68 cents to the dollar favorite. He got the job done. He's coming to a tougher challenge here today, but he has some early pace from the inside, which should suit him well. I think he could go a long way today. He ran 2 back in the Godolphin Mile at Maidan over the mile on the 30th of March. He saw a tired horse that day. He finished 12th by 12.5 lengths that day, and he just completely crumbled. He had nothing in the lane. Like I said, I just thought you saw a quick turnaround from his previous race, a tired horse. It wasn't his day to win. I thought the Saudi Cup took a lot out of him. Over the mile on the 8th in Saudi Arabia, I finished 3rd by 3/4 in length that day. He was with him early on. He just yielded before the wire. He had to be used a lot that day. You know, he ran his heart out, but he just, you know, going to Godolphin Mile after that just thought it was the wrong decision there. But he won his season reappearance in the Louisiana Stakes at the Fairgrounds on the mile 16th, winning by 5 3/4 lengths that day. Had everything his own way on the front end, and he did just that. He basically won in a trot with a 105 buyer. Ran last year's Breeders' Cup Classic at 70 cents at 7.5 to 1, where he just never got into it, and Guadalupe really took off clear. But he had his own way in the Pennsylvania Derby, won quite easily, and nearly caught, you know, he got caught by Fortin in last year's Jim Dandy, but again, he ran his heart out. He's been you know, he missed the Derby trail last year, but as the later on in the season, he really became a decent horse. This season so far, he's training nicely. He's run these competitive races. Coming here 5 to 1, he could win. I also think your second likeliest winner is the 9-horse Domestic Product for Flavian and Chad here. He won the Alan Jerkins up at Saratoga Travers weekend over the 7, winning by a neck, closing up from nowhere. He ran terrifically that day. He ran an Aqueduct prior to that over the 1-turn mile on the Dwyer, where he won by 7.5 lengths. Only 3 other rivals, but again, he flew on the front of a very good race on a very speedy track that day. And then in the Pegasus over on 2 turns, he finished 2nd by 6 3/4 lengths that day, where he was wide. Tuscan Sky just snuck up clear late, but this horse, he ran his heart out that day, cutting back from the Derby. His Derby race, I did bet him that day. He was my Derby pick. He just never really got going, but he closed into a slow pace in the Tampa Bay Derby prior to that over the mile 16th, winning by a neck. For him to close into a pace 1:16 3/4, harness times basically, I thought that was a very good, strong performance that day. I think coming here today, back to a mile, drawn well, 9 to 2 wouldn't surprise me. I'll use him to end off this pick 4. But to recap my selection for the 12th now from Del Mar, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, we're going to take the 1-horse Saudi Crown, give kudos to the 9-horse Domestic Product, 1-9, 11-6 super. We're going to go 1-9 to end off the multi-race wagers. With that being said now, good luck to all. Please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKit5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and join me this upcoming Tuesday or Monday here stateside for my Melbourne Cup preview from Flemington. Good luck, everybody.